together this joint mobility routine for you. This is a little bit different than a muscular warm-up that you might do before a program. More traditional things that you're maybe accustomed to are things like lunges or push-ups or jumping jacks, something that starts to stretch you out and gets your muscles warmed as well. And those are excellent, and I absolutely suggest that you continue to do that before you do you go into your regular programming. But even before that, sometimes you may feel the need to just loosen up at a specific area or at a specific joint level. So this is a multi-area joint mobility program, sort of the pre-muscle warm-up, the warm-up routine that you could do anytime, whether you're programming for yourself or you're going to be heading into a one-on-one personal training session, or you're going to be heading into a group fitness session. You could even do this before a spin class if you wanted to. So give this a whirl and see whether or not it can loosen up at a joint-by-joint level. We're going to start off from the head, and we're going to work ourselves down to the feet. And this can basically be a follow-along. So while I'm going to speak through this, I'm going to try to keep the repetitions around in the 10 range. So you could just follow along with what I do. All right, so we're going to start with a nod. A nod is just sort of a yes position, up and down. And this is going to look similar as to what I did last week when I was going through exercises that you could do to sort of unstiffen and stretch out after all the prolonged sitting that we've been doing. If you recall last week, I had you put your hands on your collarbones. And if you did that right now, you'd feel that it's more stretchy. You get more of the neck muscles when you do this. But again, I'm just looking at the joints right now. So I'm going to have you not worry about the collarbones and just work on moving the head up and down. From head up and down, we're going to go side to side, which is the no position that your head would take if you were you were really trying to emphasize that you did not want to do something. So it's very large. If you notice that some area is stiffer or one direction is stiffer, you can use your muscle strength to try to increase the motion. Like to my left is a little stiffer. But again, I'm still trying to actively think about motioning joints at a joint level versus a muscular level. All right, now I'm going to move down to a side motion of the head. So now this is just ear drop to the shoulder. And I'm staying pretty much in this side-to-side plane as if my body was between two pieces of glass. And I'm going fairly purely side to side. If there's a little bit of a turn, that's okay. But I'm really looking to try to get this motion specifically side to side. Now we're going to move down to the shoulder blades. Here I want the arms to stay relaxed, and I'm really going to focus on shoulder blades only. Now you really can't move the shoulder blades without moving the rib cage, and that's actually good. We want to have all the bones of the ribs move because they're connected to the spine by joints. So as we get the joint of the shoulder blade, which actually sits sort of in space on your ribs, as we get that going, we're also moving the ribs, so we're moving all the little connections of the ribs up onto the spine, front and back of spine, breastbone in the front and the vertebrae in the back. So we just change directions now. We're coming from back around the corner to front, and again, I'm trying to keep my arms a little loose. You can see I'm having a bit of trouble with that. As I come around the top, I want to stiffen up. I'm going to see if I can let that go and relax a little bit. One more. All right, now we're going to go from the shoulder blades out a little bit to the shoulders themselves, and we're going to do just simple arm circles, coming all the way up and around. How close can I get my arms to my ears? How close can I get my hands to the back wall? And if you do this the way I'm doing it now, either in a mirror or on your camera with the selfie flipped around, you can actually watch your own form and be your own coach. And I encourage that, absolutely. Switch position all the way around the top. Coming around, all the way around the top. Coming around, all the way around the top. And we're still getting that thoracic spine, we're still getting those ribs and the rib cage moving along, so we get some double duty on the ribs, which is nice. Because a very mobile thoracic spine will unload pressure pressure off the neck and the low back. So if we can get that moving, that's always going to be to our advantage. All right, we're going to move down the system now. We're going to go to the hips, and actually we're going to go to the pelvis. And these are sometimes called pelvic circles. I tend to call them hula hoops when I'm training my clients. It just makes a little bit more sense. Now, it is admittedly a very bad hula hoop, and if you did a hula hoop this way, the hula hoop would probably fall down at your feet. But the key is you're moving the hips around in a large circle. Now, we're very versed at sitting down and going back this way, so I don't want you to focus on the back of the circle. I want you to focus on the front part of the circle. If I was going around a clock, I'm going to go 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock. Around that part, that upper arc, is where I want you to focus. You may also notice some stiffness on one side more than the other. Again, muscularly move through the stiffness versus just shying away from it or going quickly through it. You want to always keep that pace kind of steady. And whenever you feel that sense of a little trepidation or a little extra stiffness or resistance, slow down and push through it. So long as it feels safe, even if it's intense and you're breathing, then we're generally okay. Let's go in the other direction, same idea. So now I'm going to go 9 o'clock to 3 o'clock on my circle. And I have a different sensation when I come around from this side. It still feels stiffer, but it doesn't feel quite the same. And you'll probably notice that because you're coming in on the joint from the other side. So entering on that other side may have a different sense, and that's okay. Just work with whatever you're feeling. After the pelvic circles, or the hula hoops, we're going to go to the hips themselves. For now, we're going to use a wall for balance. You could also hold on to a chair if you wanted. So I'm going to show you from the side. So I'm going to start here with my left leg. My chest will be up. I'm trying to keep my trunk fairly stable. I'm going to come up, around, and back. And if you notice, I'm not coming up very high. This isn't how high can I come up. It's really how far back can I come up. Once again, we sit a lot, so our legs are accustomed to this. That's an easy motion for us. But what about coming to the side, and what about especially coming behind? Can we do that? And if I go this slow, I can feel my glutes working too. So just follow along and really try to pull that knee back behind you. And I'm trying to think about keeping my body quite still as I do that. I'm getting a really nice contraction in the glute, which is great. You know, sitting on our glutes all day, they don't get a chance to work. There's an expression you might have heard called glute amnesia, and that just means from all that pressure and non-work, the glutes sort of forget what to do, how to function well. So to be able to come around in that circle and control that, I've changed the direction of the circle, and I'm just going the other way. You start to get that muscle back online. And when the muscle can get back online, that's when it has the chance to start to function for you and to start to strengthen for you. Okay, so I'm just going to turn around and do the other side. So again, I'm doing roughly between 5 and 10 or so per side, coming around. But I am trying to do as many as would be a minimum. All right. So if you notice that one particular area or side is particularly stiff of any movement, I would recommend doubling or even tripling up that motion. Okay? Slow, take your time, but the more reps means the more opportunity for you to get that joint into a better and healthier position. Same thing, I'm going to go back to front now, coming around, and sometimes it just takes more practice in order to get something. And it's very common that one side may need a little extra help, a little remediation, but that's okay. You just do what your body tells you. Coming around the corner. Good, I'm going to go one more and around. The next one we're going to do is knee circles. Okay? You're going to take the heels of your hands above your knees, right on the fleshy parts, not on the kneecaps themselves. So you're going to slide down, your feet will be very close together, and you're just going to give me this twirl. And again, I'm thinking about the clock. So if you notice, a lot of these motions are circular, so we get all the different ranges of motion and all the different corners that our joints can possibly go into when we we do rotation type movements, assuming that the joint is okay to do that. I wouldn't do that at the elbow, but I would do that for many of the joints that we're doing today. And then we're going to switch directions. Now I'm going to show you from the side. You don't want to be rounded here. You want to really try to flatten out your back. Kind of keep your butt up and back and twirl the knees in that circular direction. So if you can keep your back flat and keep your buttocks back, you'll put the pressure through the knees more appropriately. But if you round, if you tuck under and you round, then you're keeping all the weight in the front. That tends to be a little stressful to the knees. By pushing the booty back like that, you put more even pressure through the knee joint, more safe pressure through the knee joint, and the ankles as well. Okay, I have two more for you. These are a little unusual. Most of the motions that we did so far, there tends to be sort of this front to back kind of feel to them. Even if they go circular, they kind of go front, around, and then to the back, or back to the front. But what about the sides? We also move laterally. So I'm going to do two exercises that emphasize the side movements of our body. So the first one's fairly simple. We're just going to have our arms up to the side like a nice T. And all I'm going to ask you to do with your feet close together, practically touching, or touching if you wish, you're going to, it's called side glide. I'm going to try to reach, look right over my hand, and I'm going to try to reach as far as I can to that wall. I mean, I'm really pushing over as far as I can and pausing for a moment, and then I'm going to come up back to the center, and then I'm going to go the other way, and I'm going to reach over as far as I can. Really, really pushing. Now I'm going to come up to the center, and I'm going to go back, and I'm going to reach. And I think you'll appreciate that I have a different movement when I go one way, and then when I go the other way, it doesn't look symmetrical, does it? It looks kind of unusual. It looks a little bit stiff. Now that's correct because of, unfortunately, because of the way my spine works right now, I have a stiffness and I have a little bit of a limitation. So once again, all I'm going to do is try to maximize what I have. And I know, whether that's intuitively or because I've told myself so, that this is the one that I really have to work on. I'm going to spend a little bit more time in that position, or maybe I'll just do this briefly, and then I'll come up, and maybe I'll do double. Maybe I'll do more. I'll do a reach, then come back up and do another reach, and try to get a little bit more motion if I can out of this. Okay? So with repetitions, you'll start to figure out what works best for you, whether it's brief here and longer here, or multiple repetitions on one side versus the other. You'll start to get a sense of what unsticks you a little bit more and what helps you to feel more symmetrical, and that's the one that I would encourage you to continue with. The last one I'm going to have you do is just slightly complex, and again, we're going to get side to side here. We're going to go for inner thigh, but we're also going to get the glutes and the hip joint at the same time, wrapping around that hip joint. So I'm going to start in a mildly wide foot position. I'm just going to turn to one side. I'm going to turn to my left first. And if I'm going in this direction, all right, my left hand is by my foot on the outside, my right hand is by my foot on the inside. All right, my knee is straight to start. I'm going to keep my right hand on the ground, and I'm going to rotate up with the opposite hand. And many of you have probably done this in numerous applications, whether it's yoga or a class with me or a class with Michelle or Jen. You've done this stretch before. We're going to add just a little bit of something to it. From here, I'm going to bend my elbow and bend my knee and come down to the ground. Then I'm going to come back up. I'm going to come down. And then when I go to the other side, here's where I can work on a little bit of hip joint motion from side to side. I'm going to try to stay low. And I'm going to sweep around, staying low to the other side, and then coming right down into my other side. So here I am, perfectly poised to do the second side. Same thing, my inside hand, inside of the foot hand is going to stay still. I'm going to reach up with the outside hand. Once I get up there with straight knee, straight elbow, I'm going to change that, bend the elbow, bend the knee, Get a little bit more wrap around that hip joint on the right. Come back up, come down. I'm going to do one more to each side. Once again, my knee is straight. I'm going to stay low, sort of this Spider-Man kind of position over, working the hip joint in this deep position. Set myself up, lift up, knee is straight, elbow straight. Then you bring them both down to the ground. Then you come back up, down, and coming around. Here, knee is straight. I'm going to push up, come down, come up, come down. Okay. And rest. Now, when you finish, if you're caught in this position and you can't, and you're having a challenge getting up, make sure your hands are down. I like to heel toe myself back in. That makes it a little bit more comfortable. And that's it. So again, these activities were a little bit more focused on moving joints through space and getting joints unstuck and loosened up. So this would be a perfect time now to go into a muscle warm-up, and then from there launch into whatever program that you want to do. So give these a whirl. If you have any questions, you could always send me a message, but I encourage you to give it a try and see which areas are challenging for you. Maybe out of the ones that we did, there are 2 or 3 that really only resonate with you. Work on those 2 or 3. I think you'll find if you work on them regularly over a series of weeks, say every other day or so for a series of weeks, when you go into your program, you're going to find it that much more comfortable. Okay, great. Good luck.